They thought Amara Fields was just another quiet black girl, powerless, easy to break, locked in the dark, with no food, no water, and no one coming to help. She didn't cry. She planned. Because while they were laughing, Amara was remembering every move, every face, and every weakness. They had no idea they were trapping a karate black belt. They started this as a joke, but when that locker door opened and they shoved her inside, they did something they can't undo. How far will Amara Fields go to make them pay without ever getting caught? Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The old Honda Civic rattled down the narrow country road, its faded blue paint a stark contrast to the shiny pickup trucks filling the school parking lot. Amara Fields sat in the passenger seat, her backpack clutched tight against her chest, like armor. Through the windshield, Riverside High School loomed ahead, a sprawling brick building that looked exactly like every other rural Georgia school she'd seen on the drive from Atlanta. "You've got this, baby," her mom said, pulling into a spot near the main entrance. "Just be yourself." Amara nodded, but didn't speak. Her throat felt too tight. She watched groups of students cluster around their cars, laughing and talking. Not a single face looked like hers. The halls were a maze of identical beige lockers and fluorescent lights. Amara moved carefully, keeping her steps measured and quiet, as dozens of eyes tracked her movement. Some stares were openly hostile, others merely curious, but all of them made her skin prickle with awareness. In first period English, she chose a seat near the back. The teacher, Mrs. Bennett, barely glanced at her while calling roll. When Amara raised her hand at her name, a few students turned to look, then quickly turned away, whispering. By the time gym class rolled around, Amara's shoulders ached from the tension of holding herself so still and controlled. She changed in a bathroom stall rather than the locker room, pulling on baggy shorts and a loose t-shirt that hid the lean muscle underneath. "All right, everyone, give me 4 laps around the track to warm up," Coach Martinez called out, barely looking up from his clipboard. Amara started running, keeping to an easy pace. Her father's voice echoed in her head. "Control your breathing. Stay aware of your surroundings." That's when she heard them. 3 distinct male voices behind her, just loud enough to carry. "Hey, Connor, think she's trying out for the track team?" The first voice dripped with mock enthusiasm. "I don't know, Bryce. Maybe she's training for something else." Another voice, followed by snickering. "Yeah, like running from the cops." The third voice, cruel and delighted with his own joke. Amara's jaw clenched, but she kept running, maintaining her pace. She could feel them behind her, matching her speed, close enough that their shadows stretched alongside hers on the track. "What's wrong? Can't take a joke?" Bryce called out. He was tall, with the confident stride of someone who'd never had to question his place in the world. Connor, leaner and meaner-looking, made exaggerated breathing sounds. "Maybe she can't hear us over all that huffing and puffing." "Nah, she's just stuck up," Jace added, his voice carrying that particular edge that meant more was coming. "Think you're better than us, new girl?" Amara completed her laps without acknowledging them once. Inside, her heart hammered against her ribs, not from exertion, but from the effort of keeping her fists unclenched. The rest of the day passed in a blur of sideways glances and whispered comments. When her mom picked her up after school, Amara slid into the passenger seat with relief. "How was your first day, honey?" Her mom's voice was bright with forced cheerfulness. "Fine." Amara stared out the window, watching the school shrink in the side mirror. Just getting used to everything. At dinner, she pushed her food around her plate, answering her mom's questions with single words until she was excused. The garage was her sanctuary. Her father had converted half of it into a training space years ago, with mats on the floor and a heavy bag hanging in the corner. He was supposed to be finishing renovations on their new house, but Amara knew he was really staying to make sure she settled in okay. She found him there, wrapping his hands before his evening workout. He took one look at her face and held out the tape. Want to train? Amara nodded, taking the tape and beginning the familiar ritual of wrapping her hands. The repetitive motion helped center her thoughts. They worked in silence, kicks, punches, blocks. Her father called out combinations, and Amara executed them with precision born from years of practice. Each strike carried the weight of the day's frustrations, but she kept her technique clean and controlled. Remember, her father said between sets, power isn't about force, it's about timing, about knowing when to move. After an hour, sweat dripping from her forehead, Amara finally felt the knot in her chest beginning to loosen. She bowed to her father before heading inside to shower. In her bathroom, steam fogging the mirror, Amara pulled her black belt from its hook on the wall. The fabric was worn soft from years of use, the embroidered characters of her name barely visible anymore. She tied it around her waist with practiced movements, each loop and fold a reminder of who she was beneath the baggy clothes and careful silence. Looking at her reflection, Amara whispered, "Don't let them see you. Not yet." Morning sunlight streamed through Riverside High's front windows, casting long shadows across the freshly waxed floors. Amara walked through the entrance, her backpack heavy with textbooks. She'd chosen her outfit carefully, loose jeans and an oversized sweater that revealed nothing of the muscle underneath. The whispers started before she'd made it 10 steps into the building. "That's her, the new girl. Did you hear what Bryce said about her yesterday?" "Yeah, thinks she's all that." Amara kept her eyes forward, her pace steady. She'd learned young that showing reaction only encouraged them. Still, she catalogued each voice, each face reflected in the hallway windows as she passed. In chemistry, she headed for her assigned seat in the 3rd row. Just as she stepped past Connor's desk, his foot shot out. Amara saw it coming. Years of training had taught her to read body language, but she let herself trip anyway, catching herself on the edge of her desk. Snickers rippled through the classroom. Connor's smirk was reflected in the window. "Ms. Fields, please take your seat without causing a disruption," Mr. Parker said without looking up from his desk. Amara straightened, adjusted her backpack, and sat down. Her hands remained relaxed on the desktop, even as her mind recorded every detail. Connor's satisfied expression, the teacher's deliberate ignorance, the way Bryce and Jace exchanged knowing looks from across the room. The cafeteria at lunch was a careful navigation of territory. Amara found an empty table near the wall, positioning herself where she could see all the entrances. She just started eating when she felt someone approach from behind. "Oh my God, I'm so clumsy!" a high-pitched voice exclaimed as cold milk splashed across Amara's lunch tray, splattering her food and the sleeve of her sweater. The girl, one of Bryce's friends, covered her mouth in fake horror, empty milk carton dangling from her perfectly manicured fingers. "Here," she said, dropping a handful of napkins onto the mess. "Sorry about that." She wasn't sorry. Her eyes sparkled with mean delight as she sashayed back to her table, where Bryce and his friends erupted in poorly concealed laughter. Amara used the napkins to clean up methodically, her movements precise and unhurried. She could feel dozens of eyes on her, waiting for a reaction. She gave them none. Gym class was worse than yesterday. Coach Martinez had them playing volleyball, and every serve from Bryce's side of the net seemed aimed directly at her head. She dodged each one with subtle shifts of her body, making it look like luck rather than skill. "Come on, Fields," Bryce called out. "Show us what you got." "Maybe she's scared of the ball," Connor added. "Bet she's scared of everything," Jace chimed in. When a particularly aggressive spike from Bryce nearly caught her face, Amara finally spoke up. "Coach, they're aiming for my head." Coach Martinez barely glanced up from his phone. "This is volleyball, Fields. If you can't handle a little competitive play, maybe you should toughen up." The boys' laughter echoed off the gymnasium walls. Amara absorbed it all, filing away each taunt, each dismissal, each moment of calculated cruelty. After school, she walked home instead of waiting for her mom. The 3-mile journey gave her time to process, to let the mask of passive acceptance slip away. By the time she reached her driveway, her father's truck was parked outside. He was unloading tools from the bed when she approached. One look at her face, and his movements slowed, became more deliberate. "Rough day?" he asked, though it wasn't really a question. Amara shrugged, reaching for one of the lighter boxes to help carry inside. Her father watched her, his expression unreadable. "Mom, working late?" she asked. "Double shift at the hospital." He paused, then added, "Garage in 20?" Amara nodded, grateful he didn't push for details. 20 minutes later, she stood on the training mats, hands wrapped, wearing her GI. Her father held the heavy bag as she worked combinations: jab, cross, hook, uppercut. Each punch carried more force than the last. "Again," he said quietly. She repeated the sequence, faster this time. Sweat began to darken the white fabric of her GI. "Again." The garage filled with the rhythmic sound of fists meeting leather. Amara's breathing remained controlled, but her strikes grew harder, sharper. Images flashed through her mind with each hit. Connor's extended foot, the milk splashing across her lunch, Bryce's smirking face, the coach's dismissal. Her father watched silently, absorbing the impact of each blow through the heavy bag. He made no comment about the increased intensity, asked no questions about what fueled this sudden fury. He simply adjusted his stance to better brace against her strikes. After an hour, when her arms burned and her GI was soaked with sweat, he finally spoke. "Your stance," he said, moving to demonstrate. "It's too wide. Tighten it up. You'll need it." Amara adjusted her feet, feeling the subtle shift in balance. Her next combination landed with even more precision. They continued training until the sun set, the garage growing darker except for the single fluorescent light above the mats. Each punch, each kick, each combination was a promise Amara made to herself. She might have to play weak at school, but here, in this space, she could be exactly who she was. Her father kept holding the bag, offering small corrections to her form, saying nothing about the tears that occasionally mixed with the sweat on her face. Friday afternoon sunlight slanted through Riverside High's west windows, casting long shadows across empty hallways. Most students had already rushed out, eager to start their weekend. Amara took her time, organizing her books at her locker. She preferred leaving after the crowds thinned out. It meant fewer accidental bumps in the hallway, fewer whispered comments. The sound of footsteps made her tense, but she kept her movements calm, methodical. "Hey, Fields!" Jace's voice echoed down the corridor. Amara didn't turn around immediately. She closed her locker slowly, counting to 3 before facing him. Jace stood a few feet away, hands in his Letterman jacket pockets, wearing that permanent smirk of his. "Coach Martinez needs help moving some equipment in the gym storage room," he said. "Told me to grab you since you were still around." Amara's eyes narrowed slightly. "Why me?" Jace shrugged, looking bored. "Something about making up for yesterday's volleyball thing. Said it would count as extra credit." He started walking backward toward the gym. "But hey, if you don't want to—" Amara hesitated. Everything about this felt wrong. Coach Martinez had never shown any interest in making things right. But if there was even a small chance this was legitimate, a chance to prove herself, to change how they saw her. "Fine," she said, adjusting her backpack. "Lead the way." The gym was eerily quiet, their footsteps echoing off the high ceiling. Late afternoon light filtered through the high windows, creating patches of shadow and brightness on the polished floor. Jace headed toward the storage room at the far end, whistling tunelessly. The storage room door was already open, darkness yawning beyond it. Amara paused at the threshold, every instinct screaming at her to turn back. "Coach?" she called out. "In here," a voice answered. But it wasn't Coach Martinez. Before she could react, hands grabbed her from behind. She recognized Bryce's cologne as he yanked her backpack off. Connor appeared from the shadows, grinning as he held